Well, good Friday evening, South Carolina weather watchers. I'm your meteorologist, Joseph Peterson, and let's go ahead and talk about the weather for your Friday evening going into your future. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about for tonight, as you can see on the screen right now. South Carolina's weather is about to go bananas. That's the main topic because there's a lot of things to talk about. Obviously, we have the tropics to talk about. I've been getting notifications about the tropics all day today. Severe weather possible as we go into this weekend, going into next week, and then extreme heat with dangerous heat indices. Again, up to around 110 or so as we move throughout this weekend into early next week. All of that we're going to go ahead and talk about. But before we get into that, if you have not the like button yet or the subscribe button yet, go on and do so. Also hit the share button, share with your friends, your family members, your acquaintances, people that you don't talk to regularly because it's free, it's free, it's free. Now, in terms of what's on tap for tonight, isolated to scattered showers and storms possible tonight. Hot and humid this weekend with heat advisories likely, and then hot and humid pattern holds into early next week with heat advisories likely once again early next week. And then severe weather we're also watching for. And we're also monitoring the low pressure in the northeastern Gulf for any sort of potential moisture increase in impacts. All of that we're going to go in and talk about, and we're going to go out of order again for tonight. Remember, last night we went on and talked about the severe weather first and the tropics. We're going to do that again today. We're not going to talk about the heat first, because the heat's currently going on. And we're going to go over the heat as normal, but I do want to go and talk about the tropics and the severe weather portion first. I'm going to talk about those two areas first. So let's go on and take a look at severe weather. So as we start off for tonight, we had a marginal risk of severe weather. As we went into today. Now, currently, they have not updated it yet, so I can't really do anything with it until they update it. But for right now, SPC Outlook still has a marginal risk of severe weather up there inside of the upstate. And currently, we have special weather statements going on in South Carolina for Williston, New Ellington, Jackson, South Carolina, Beach Island, South Carolina, going near the Savannah River site. Those areas, 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts and pea-sized hail. And then we also have a new special weather statement over here for Todd, South Carolina. Same thing with Steedman, Fairview Crossroads over near Berlin, and Camp Rawls inside of South Carolina for 50-mile-per-hour winds. So all of that is kind of going on as we move into the current times. But none of that's really inside the upstate. That's outside of that dark green area. It's in the light green area instead. And so that's why, even if you have a light green area, you still need to watch out for thunderstorms. And that's exactly why they have that risk there. But for now, they do have that marginal risk still up there. So we're still going to watch for it. We had a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings for today. Tomorrow, marginal risk of severe weather for the upstate, the Midlands, the PD areas, all the upstate is included in there. So everybody in the dark green has a risk of severe weather for tomorrow. Now, what are the risks? Well, damaging winds. Damaging winds is the main factor as we go into tomorrow. Damaging winds definitely is the main factor going into tomorrow. And so if you are in the dark green areas, make sure you're watching for isolated damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour. And if you're in the light green, thunderstorms are still possible for you. But you do want to make sure that you are watching out. Because even though you may not have that risk of severe weather, you still may get strong winds. You may still get some small hail. And so if you're in that light green area, make sure that you're taking into account the severe weather. Now, as you move over into Sunday, July 19th, this is a slight risk of severe weather up there in Rock Hill, up there in Florence, over there inside of the Bennettsville, the Cheraw, the Dillon areas. Slight risk of severe weather. Now, the hazards are not completely out yet, but we can tell that we at least have a 15% risk of severe storms in that area. And then if you're in the green, which is the marginal risk, that's a 5% risk of severe weather. So isolated damaging storms is possible in that dark green. The light green, the same thing as I've been saying this entire time. Thunderstorms are possible, not expected to be severe, but you still want to watch out. And then if you think that we're done there, absolutely not. Wednesday, July 22nd. We talked about Wednesday last night. We did talk about Wednesday, saying how Wednesday could potentially be a pretty big day Now, for right now, the Storm Prediction Center only has a slight risk for that very northeastern portion of the state over there, just to north of Florence in Marlborough counties and uh, some of those other counties surrounding it. So if you're in those yellow areas for Wednesday, make sure that you are paying attention for severe weather. And honestly, I think that that could definitely expand. Not only do I think it can expand, but also I think that even if you don't, get in the yellow, we still have that marginal risk under it. So that marginal risk of severe weather also is something to take into account, but that won't be out until the next like couple of days or so. So we have to get to day 5 because this is day 6. So that's day 5, day 4, day 3. We won't know until Sunday, pretty much, I believe. No, Monday, actually. We won't know until Monday where the marginal risk of severe weather will be at. So we have a long ways to go there. But the fact that they are that confident on severe weather from on day 6, Wednesday, means that this could mean business. And even I was calling it out yesterday. So if we go on and take a look at the models real quick, just seeing what they have to look like, we're going to look at the GFS first. And as we go on, and we're going to mainly talk about, we'll go over tomorrow's threat in a little bit, but I really want to talk about Sunday and then Wednesday. So we're going to talk about Sunday first. And as we get over into the models here, time is at the bottom part of your screen. Make sure that you pay attention to that. As we get later on into the day, on Sunday, I'm going into Sunday evening, Sunday night. You can see there is some moisture there, but it's not really too organized, it looks like, at this point. Now, just because it's not really like a complete straight shot, like full damaging wind segment, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to not produce any severe weather. But you can see that moisture is there. How much of the moisture is going to be there? That's the main question that I have. And so I think that that's the main reason why a lot of us are in that marginal risk of severe weather on July 19th, which is when this takes place, really just because the moisture, it's there, the ingredients are there, but it's just really if that convection is going to be there. And again, this is a long-term model, so obviously it's not going to be as detailed. It's not going to be as high resolution as the shorter-term models will be. But if we go to a model, let's say like the NAM 3-kilometer model, for example, we go into Sunday. This is Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon here. And then you start to see some shower and storm activity start to pop at around, later on in the evening hours, actually, going to 8 p.m., 9, 10 p.m. And then look at all this severe weather that could be going on over there in North Carolina. Watch as it moves its way down into the state of South Carolina later on, like 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning, and things calm down. So I'm more kind of just interested to see what's going to happen in terms of the convection here. Is it going to fire off? What's the rain scenario looking like? And so I think I'm really waiting on it to get around 48 hours out. So we'll see what happens with the HRRR there. But the main thing that I am seeing here is that there is rainfall here that is present that could potentially aid into it. Now, as you go over into the actual ingredients themselves, the dew points, they're there. We have the moisture there for it. If we go on and take a look at the CAPE levels as well, CAPE levels for sure also are kind of there. I mean, you see it during the daytime, or even as you go into the you see as you go into the daytime, going like over into the nighttime. But then watch as we get later on into the nighttime hours, those storms obviously start to eat the CAPE, and then now you have lesser CAPE just due to the storm activity trying to eat up the CAPE and the convective available potential energy. So that goes away. And Sunday's, threat, Sunday, which honestly looks more like a Sunday night going into a Monday type threat here. That threat's done. Now, what's going on in terms of Wednesday's threat, which I'm a bit more interested about Wednesday. Not to push Sunday out of the water and to say, oh, it's not going to do anything. There still is a pretty big risk there. I'm more interested, though, looking at Wednesday. And Wednesday, honestly, just looking at it right now, it's not looking as bad as it was yesterday. Yesterday, it showed a completely different scenario. I mean, look at how much rainfall, look at how much confidence the GFS had, and a pretty big system starting to move its way down into South Carolina on Wednesday. Now, that was yesterday. Look at today's. A complete difference. So, this may be better case scenario for us. Obviously not a whole lot of rainfall. So, if you wanted to see the rain from, that system trying to come in, that could be a bit of a disappointing factor. But if we don't see the convection with it, that's less severe weather to really talk about. And so I guess that is the main reason why they don't have it really expanding too much into South Carolina, just because you're not seeing a lot of convection into the state of South Carolina like we were yesterday. So does it mean that a marginal risk still can happen? No. Does it still mean that the slight risk still won't drag its way into the state? I mean, it definitely could. As we get closer and closer, you got to remember that models are going to shift, models are going to change, and ingredients will also change. For example, we move over into the dew points once again. What do you see? You definitely see that moisture is there. You want to take a look at the height in terms of winds in the upper atmosphere, that's there as well. And then you go on and take a look at the Cape levels as well. That seems to be there as well. And you can see how easily those storms start to try and eat at the Cape once again, with joules per kilogram being around 1,000 all the way to around 2,500. I see 2,900 in some spots. So a lot of Cape is there for that storm to go in and get. So that's the main reason why they kind of just have that slight risk kind of just added up into that North Carolina area. Not too much in South Carolina, though. But will it potentially reach its way down all the way towards the coastal areas of South Carolina as you move into Wednesday night going into Thursday? I mean, as we see here on the map, I mean, it definitely still could. This is 2 o'clock in the morning or so on Thursday, so it's still possible. It still is possible here. Now, as we go on and move off of severe weather here, I mean, severe weather, I think we're just going to have to wait a little bit, especially with the Wednesday threat, to see what happens there. Sunday, like I said, not really seeing as much convection on Sunday, but, it still could happen. We still could see maybe some scattered severe storms. I mean, right now it's just looking like isolated 2 scattered severe storms, so maybe that's all it is. Maybe we won't really see too much in terms of widespread activity throughout the state. So let's go on now and take a look at the tropics. So severe weather, we got that taken care of. The tropics now is a bit of a different story, and I'll say why. Number one, if you remember old disturbance 1 over here, the one over by the Cabo Verde Islands in the eastern tropical Atlantic, that one is now done. Pretty much it's gone. It has a 0% chance of formation. Kind of expected that. I don't think really anybody really expected it to really do too much. As it's moving into an area that is just not great for it, a hostile environment, and it's just overall was not going to support its growth at all. So that's out. That's done. We're not focusing on that anymore. The main thing that we are focusing on, and I've already gotten notification about all day today, is disturbance 1 over here in the Gulf. Showers and thunderstorms over the eastern Gulf and portions of the Florida Peninsula are associated with an upper level low and surface trough. Surface observations indicate that pressures are high in the area and that currently there are no signs of surface circulation. However, some gradual development of the system is possible while it meanders north, bringing heavy rain to portions of the Florida west coast during the next several days. So, a 10% chance of forming over the next 48 hours and a 30% chance of forming over the next 7 days. And so I've already seen reports, throughout Florida, some Florida residents saying that they've already seen gusts 40, 50 miles per hour from this low pressure. I've seen, obviously, a lot of rainfall, heavy rainfall, and just the whole shield of rainfall. I mean, it has a lot of characteristics, for sure, of a tropical storm / hurricane system. In fact, there's even a severe thunderstorm warning right now in Florida right now for 60-mile-per-hour winds that's associated with that low pressure system. So this thing definitely is cranking winds for sure. That's not a problem with it. The main thing, like it says in the discussion, was that Surface observations indicate that pressure is high and that there's currently no signs of any surface circulation. So that's the only thing that's really holding this thing back from, being already up to that tropical storm-like status or so. Now, there probably are some other factors associated with that as well. But what are the actual ensembles saying? Well, if we go on and take a look at the website here that I have, we're going to look at each one real quick and see what they have to say in terms of this low and what it has to do. First thing before we get to that is I want you to see that yellow area. You see that yellow area right over there, right near Florida, obviously Georgia, Alabama, over near Mississippi and Louisiana. I believe it was last night, I believe it was last night, I said that I would not be shocked if the area of interest shifted further west. If you remember last night, the surface area where that yellow is was more stretched towards South Carolina. Now it has stretched all the way over towards Louisiana now. So that is a correct statement that I had, saying that I believe that it would continue to move its way over towards the west, and it seemed like that the National Hurricane Center did do just that. But if we go on and take a look over at the ensembles here, this is the European one first, or the Euro AI one first. Watch how in the Gulf, you see a bunch of low pressures start. You're already seeing them going on near Florida. That's expected. We know that there's going to be some low pressure system that's going to make its way over. But you don't see a major area of low pressure moving towards the state of South Carolina. You don't see too much of them going this way. You see most of them going over towards the west, towards Louisiana, towards Texas, towards Mississippi. You don't see it reaching over in this eastern area. And so that is definitely a shift that we've been noticing over the past couple of days, is the shift west from these models and not so east. Another area that we can look at, or another member model we can look at, is the European. Look at the 12Z real quick. I'm going to push this forward. What does the European say? European, as we push this forward, is not really too keen on this system like the Euro AI model is. The Euro kind of has like a couple of low pressures, probably about like 10 or so. And, they all kind of just fizzle out, kind of go away, and not really doing too much. It has maybe like a couple that could get around 50, 60 knots in terms of max wind. And you do even have one that tries to make its way over into South Carolina a little bit, and even lowers, its pressure as you get over land there. So, again, that is something to look at there as we go over into the next, what is that, the 24th. Here, remember also times at the top right corner of your screen, Friday, July 24th there. But as you move that forward even more, again, you don't see much going on, as much as the Euro AI did, but you do see one lone member in the European go over the state. And then finally, the GEFS here. We're going to go to the 18Z here. Update that. All right, there we go. We're going to go, this is the latest one. And what do you see? You see, a bunch of low pressures kind of forming over here just due to the one that we're dealing with later on. But the low pressure in the Gulf, again, GEFS is also not too keen on it either. Not too keen on it either. Doesn't really think that much is going to happen. And so it kind of just dies and fizzles out kind of more inside of the Gulf. So all models are still not completely agreeing with each other. Even though, we're getting closer and closer, not all models are agreeing here. If you go over into the Euro AI, that one says a good amount, but has all of them shifting towards the west. The European has less, but has a couple, maybe one or two, shifting its way over towards the east. And then the GEFS just says, no, it's going to die out and quickly, and it's not really going to do too much. So we're still looking at a bunch of different scenarios here from a bunch of different models. And so the main saying that I always say over here, let's just continue to wait and see what happens here. Because even if we go into this weekend, which it is Friday, going into the 19th or so, which, by the time most models are saying this thing is going to form, starts off going to like the 19th or so. So going to like the late night 18th, going to the 19th. So we're still 24, 36 hours out before this low pressure even forms in general. potentially. So we'll see what happens here. And I'll keep you updated on that. But again, the chances for this, a 10% risk over the next 48 hours for this thing to form, and then a 30% risk over the next 7 days for this thing to form. So again, pretty low, but I expect that chance probably will try to increase more and more. But that's all I have to say here in terms of the tropics. That's all I have to say here in terms of severe weather. And I just realized I spent way too long talking about that. I didn't even know it's been 20 minutes already. But we're going to go on real quick, get off of that. That's the main two topics done. And we're going to go on and talk about what's currently going on throughout the state of South Carolina. So what's currently going on? One thing that you do see is we have storms. We talked about the storms a bit earlier. We had storms with winds of up to 50 miles per hour with them. We saw winds of up to maybe 40 or so, maybe a bit below. But overall, storms are happening. We know that storms are happening. Not only that, but they're also causing some heavy rainfall. It says multi-cell thunderstorm clusters with torrential rainfall rates of up to 3 inches per hour. 3 inches of rain per hour will continue to cause localized flash flooding across southern Georgia into southern Alabama and South Carolina and the Florida Peninsula into the overnight hours. So this could potentially be a flooding issue as we move into tonight with these storms that are kind of tracking its way over. Now, in terms of what's going on throughout the entire U.S., we do have some severe weather still going on over here inside of Georgia. We see Florida's having some severe weather, some flooding going on over there, some storms going on in Alabama, maybe even with some more flooding potential going on in Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio. I mean, all these areas, severe weather in Wisconsin, and then the West continuing to be active with severe weather and flooding. Now, if we want to take a look at cloud cover does seem to be really happening over there in the western areas where that shower activity is going on. Also, there is some shower activity going on over there in parts of the upstate as well. That's why you see some cloud cover, some dense cloud cover going on over there. But look at the low country. Look at the Grand Strand areas. Look at the PD areas. You're not seeing much in terms of cloud cover activity over there. And if we look at that cloud cover activity into the future, we move into tonight, going into early tomorrow morning. And cloud cover activity does seem to try and continue its way more in those northern areas as you move into tomorrow morning. Going into tomorrow afternoon, cloud cover starts to spread as we get some more shower storm activity starts to get going. But overall, it doesn't really seem like it's going to be completely cloudy statewide. We move over into Saturday night, going into Sunday morning. Cloud cover now continues its way with even some afternoon pickup as we go into Sunday afternoon there. Now, for our current temperatures, we're talking about 83 in Summerville, 84 in Charleston, Beaufort, even 78 in Orangeburg, 83 in Georgetown, and 84 in Myrtle Beach, 83 Conway, and 86 in Florence, 85 Hartsville, and 82 in Columbia, 83 Newberry, as well as 82 in Greenville, 85 Spartanburg, Gaffney, 86 in York as well. Now, for our air quality for tonight, it does look like that a majority of us are inside that moderate area. And it has to do, obviously, with those Canadian wildfires that are going on. A lot of that air quality will be impacted as some of that smoke will try to make its way down into these areas. And so you can see that most of us are in that moderate category. What does that moderate category mean? Well, it's not quite too bad, but it's not too good either. So if you're in the yellow areas, make sure that you're paying attention for the air quality for tonight if you're outside for a long period of time. If you're not in the yellow, you're good to go. Low temperatures for tonight, we're talking about 74 in Greenville, 74 Spartanburg, and even 75 in Rock Hill, 76 in Columbia, 77 in Sumter, Florence, Georgetown, 80 in Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and 81 in Hilton Head Island. High temperatures for tomorrow, 94 in Greenville, 95 Spartanburg, even 96 in Columbia, 96 Orangeburg, and even around 95 in Moncks Corner, 91 in Charleston, 93 over inside of Georgetown, and 92 in Hilton Head Island. Heat index values for tomorrow seem like we're going to be up into the upper 10s or so. I don't know if that made sense or not. That was just on the fly there. But the upper 10s, what do I mean by that? Like the upper, 105, 106, 107, 108 areas or so. Then if you move up over into the upstate, that's more of the lower 100s, around 101, 102, 103 or so. So, going to be hot regardless of where you are. Just in the low country and the Midlands and the PD Grand Strand areas are still going to be a lot more warmer there. Rainfall activity over the next 24 hours seems like around 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch seems to be going on from Greenville to Spartanburg to Anderson, Newbury, even Columbia. All have that 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch, maybe even a 10th of an inch to a quarter of an inch over for Orangeburg, Barnwell. And then some areas may even see a quarter of an inch to a half an inch. Now, in terms of the SPC outlook, we already talked about severe weather, but again, here's just a overview. Tomorrow, marginal risk of severe weather there. Isolated damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour in the dark green. Sunday, in the yellow, you have a 15% risk of severe weather there for Sunday. And then if you're in the dark green, you have a 5%. And then on Wednesday, you have, if you're up there in that northeastern area, you have a slight risk, a 15% risk of severe weather on Wednesday of next week. Excessive rainfall wise, they did just update this, in fact, because I don't believe that this was here, or either I may be losing my mind also, but I'm pretty sure this was not here just about like an hour or so ago. You see Aiken in there, Barnwell in there, Allendale in there. 5% risk of isolated flash flooding over there inside of those areas towards the south and west, over in the CSRA areas, also in the very western low country. Tomorrow we're good. Day 3, isolated flash flooding, again for the Grand Strand area, the PD areas, moving up into those northern PD areas. And then as you go into day 4, which is on Monday, isolated flash flooding from the upstate to the Midlands, all the way over into the PD, the Grand Strand areas. And then on day 5, again, isolated flash flooding once again for the coastal low country and all the way over into Georgetown and Garden City Beach. So flash flooding is going to be our friend as we move throughout the next 5 days or so. Crazy score, we're at a 26 right now. Nothing too concerning right now, but we will, maybe might need to start to see some of those storm activities start to kind of go down, hopefully. But if we do see some flooding, though, and we start to see some flood advisories, maybe a flash flood warning, I definitely could see that score start to go up. So now let's go in and take a look at the models. So we're going to start off with the short term first. And just as we go in and push this forward, make sure you pay attention to that time at the bottom part of your screen. You go in and push this forward, we see, rainfall activity kind of going on as you move a little bit into tonight, going into tomorrow, but it kind of fizzles out relatively quickly. Going into Saturday afternoon, by around 2 to 3 p.m. or so, you're starting to see some shower activity going on from the upstate to the Midland areas. And then by the time you get to around the nighttime hours on Saturday, again, look at how much shower and storm activity we have, which I believe that's when our severe weather threat's going to start. It's going to be kind of late going into Saturday. And then as we go into Sunday morning, all those storms are going to be gone. Sunday afternoon comes along, though. And what do we see? Another risk of severe weather starting to make its presence known on Sunday. Now, what about for our long-term future? So past, Sunday going into Monday. Monday comes along going over into Tuesday, and we bring in some rainfall activity. But, from that low pressure system, we're not seeing as much rainfall as we initially anticipated from that Gulf system. Remember, that Gulf system was supposed to go up towards the north and east, towards us, bringing us some activity. But now, you're not really seeing that too much. But then watch as we go into Wednesday, though. Thursday, there goes that risk of severe weather on Wednesday night going into Thursday. That goes in, moves out pretty quickly. And then Thursday and Friday of next week looks pretty good. We go into Saturday or so. Going into Sunday, we get another risk of some more rainfall. Maybe another beneficial rainfall setup, severe weather setup, maybe trying to set up for next weekend. And then as we move into the week after next week, rainfall activity just here and there, kind of going along, but things kind of are a bit too far out to really talk about there. Now, in terms of how much rainfall we could potentially receive over the next 384 hours, according to the GEFS, right now around 2 to 4 inches is what we're looking at, according to the GEFS, over the next 384 hours. And that's, again, an ensemble, so not a deterministic. This is members put together as an average. And then if we go and look at the mean for the European over the next 360 hours, around 2 to maybe even 4.5 inches of rainfall, if not more, as we move into the next 360 hours. But one thing that you do notice about both of these ensembles is that both of them have a lot of that rainfall over into the eastern areas. And so as we go on and take a look at the next 3 to 7 days, according to the National Weather Service hazard map, you can see that a good amount of us are inside of this dark green area over here on the eastern side, and that's a heavy rainfall risk over the next 3 to 7 days. So I do think that the majority of the eastern part, from Myrtle Beach down to Charleston, over to maybe those lower coastal areas, may even see the majority of the rainfall. May see the majority of the rainfall as we move into the next 300, 400 hours or so. Which, if we go on and take a look at the drought, I think, wouldn't necessarily be the worst idea. Wouldn't necessarily be too bad. And just because you can see the red areas, the D3, the extreme drought, that's where the drought is currently the worst. D2 in the orange, D1 in the tan, D0, which is not a drought, it's abnormally dry, over there in the yellow. So now if we go on and take a look at our temperatures now, hot temperatures are still going to be here. We saw the hot temperatures for tomorrow. We know that those temperatures are going to be up to around 100 or so, if not 108, 109 in terms of heat index values. But watch as we go into Saturday, going over into Sunday, we're still going to be hot. Monday comes along, we're still going to be hot. Tuesday, same thing. But what day am I watching for next week? Wednesday. I'm watching for Wednesday because it seems like that when that severe weather system moves in, cooler air is going to try and move its way in as we move into Wednesday, even Thursday, probably more than likely. And so when that cooler air tries to come in, watch these temperatures. We're not going to be like 10, 15 degrees above average on Thursday. We may only be like 2 to 4 degrees above average. And then as we move into Friday, maybe only 1 to 2 degrees. If not, some areas may even be a little bit below average. But watch out as we move later on, going into Saturday. Look at all this cooler air over there towards our west and in the low country areas going into next weekend. Remember, I said another severe weather system may be trying to set stone as we go into next weekend. And Sunday, we're already seeing potentially another cool down next weekend there. So that's something to watch for there as well. We go into the week after next week, and we're still looking at some warming up to do. So I do think that warmer conditions obviously are still not going to be out of our hair yet. And so let's go on now and take a look at our temperatures, actual. So if we go over into Saturday or so, going over into Sunday, you do see that we do have some more warming up as we go into the next couple of days. But I'm really just focused on Wednesday. Wednesday comes in. It's going to be hot on Wednesday, but Wednesday night, that cold front's going to move through, and Thursday, highs are going to be in the lower 90s, maybe even some of us only the lower 80s as a high as we move into Thursday. We go into Friday, moving on past that, we're still into the 90s, we're still into the 80s, even on Saturday and Sunday of next weekend, when potentially another cooler air mass maybe try to move its way through another cold front. And I'm extremely watching next weekend's air because what does that say as a high temperature on Sunday? 73, 69, 76? If we had a high temperature in the 70s going into late July, that would be pretty unusual. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, you just saw it was around 20 degrees below average. That would be pretty unusual to see as we go into like late July. So I'm really watching that in terms of temperatures to see what happens there. But past that, the heat comes back. We're back to being around 100 degrees or so. And speaking of, as we move into the short term, what are we looking at in terms of heat index values? Well, as we go into Saturday, moving on into Sunday, we're still around 104, 105 or so. We're going to be up past that, most likely. And even as you go into Tuesday, it's still going to be hot Wednesday as well. Look at Wednesday, the day of that storm system may try to move through. 108, 109 in some spots. So it's going to be hot in a lot of areas before that storm system moves through, which may not be the best case scenario for that day. And then one more thing to look at, it is the mean as we move throughout the next 200 hours or so. As we go on and push this forward, we can see that just as an average, we're seeing temperatures as we move throughout the end of the month kind of just stay in the lower 90s. Even as you go into, like, this is Friday here on the 31st, and then even as we move into August the 1st, though, it does look like temperatures are going to continue to try and make themselves go back up as we go later on into August. So August could start off pretty hot. And that's all I have to say here in terms of the models and just everything. That was a lot of stuff to talk about. No earthquakes occurred today. So we're going to go on now and talk with the audience. If you want to be a part of the audience, you can by joining us here at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see what the audience has to say here for tonight. Remember to hit the like button. We've had 42 people tune in tonight, and we only have 7 likes. 42 people have tuned in, and we only have 7 likes. If you're a part of that group that have not hit the like button yet, go on and do so. 42, that's 35 people that came in and did not hit the like button. Go on and do so if you have not already. So let's see what the chat has to say for tonight. My Outlaw says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. I pray that everyone had a blessed day. Well, thank you so much for that. Today in Georgetown, our high was around 94. Currently, it's 86. And I was tempted to see if I could fry an egg on the pavement. You know, from how hot it was, let's see. You said your high temperature was 94. I don't know if that would have done it. But maybe wait for another day. Maybe wait for later on going into this weekend, going into early next week. Maybe you can. Today in Georgetown, it was pretty hot. I already read that. Excuse me. In my car, I read 104. If SC weather is about to go bananas more than what it is, wow, we're in trouble. Well, from what it is now, we're seeing, some storm activity. We're seeing some heat. But for when it comes to this tropical system, maybe bringing us some impacts, maybe not. Right now, it's looking more towards the not so much as we thought. And then with the temperatures being, getting even hotter, and then also with severe weather coming in, I definitely say it is definitely going to go more bananas than that. My cousin Cheryl comes in and says, good evening, weatherman. Hope all is well. Good evening, everyone. I'm listening. I hope everyone had a good weekend, or hope everybody has a good weekend, and be blessed. I love you all. Your girl Cheryl. Have a good weekend. I'm working. Be blessed. I'm listening. Well, thank you so much for that. I do appreciate you for being here for tonight. Mr. Anthony says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. ATR Media says, salute to you as well. Trail says, greetings, Joseph, greetings to you. And then my Nana says, hello, Jay, phone problems. Well, glad that you were able to be here for tonight. Glad you were able to type, actually. And that's all that I can see here in terms of the chat for tonight. So we're going to go on and do the top fan question of the night for tonight. The top fan question of the night for tonight, if you don't know what it is, it's a question that I ask every night to see who was paying attention, and whoever gets it correct will get a no reward top fan of the night reward. So, again, nothing, no money involved, nothing involved, just appreciation and a shout out for you being the top fan of the night for tonight. And so what's the question? The question for tonight is, what day did I say next week cooler air will be trying to move into the state of South Carolina? And it's actually a little bit of a trick question, so really do think about it before you type. What day did I say cooler air would be really trying to move into the state, and we really start to feel the effects of that cooler air? If you answer that correctly, go on and do so. If you have not already, and then I can't see any answers in the chat now, so we're going to go on and talk about the 3 areas outside of South Carolina. If this is your stop, by the way, and you're in the state of South Carolina, remember next week I said that the forecast will move up to 8 o'clock p.m. I'm still trying to figure out the day. It may just be Monday. But for right now, as I know, next week, the time will move up to 8 o'clock p.m. It will move up to 8 o'clock p.m. It's just temporary to see what happens, seeing, what the channel does. If we get more viewers, if we, get less, then obviously we'll probably move it back. But for right now, 8 o'clock p.m. Will be the new time next week. Now, for Raleigh, North Carolina, we're going to start off here with low temperatures tonight at 76, high temperatures for tomorrow at 99, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 76. No precipitation tonight, but tomorrow, chance of thunderstorms there. Tomorrow night, showers are likely. There is a haze tonight and tomorrow. And then as you go over into your severe weather risk, you do have a risk of severe weather. That's pretty much non-negotiable at this point. South Carolina has a bunch, so most likely you're going to have a bunch as well. Tomorrow, slight risk of severe weather. That is a 15% risk of damaging winds. Sunday, you have a 15% risk of severe weather. And then on Wednesday, you have a 15% risk of severe weather. So a severe weather train is definitely getting ready to go upon the city of Raleigh. And then you have a risk of isolated flash flooding on Sunday and Monday. Now, for your future, it does look like temperatures will continue to stay in the 90s. It will look like that you will take a little bit of a hit as you go into Thursday, with those high temperatures only being into the upper 80s there. And then rainfall-wise, you're going to continue to stay in the active zone as you move even into Friday of next week. So not a break, no break for you. Tuesday is not the correct answer. For Philadelphia, you have low temperatures tonight at 72, high temperatures for tomorrow at 90, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 72. No precipitation tonight, but smoke is going to be your main hazard for tonight. Heavy rainfall is expected tomorrow, and then tomorrow night storms. Why? Well, tomorrow's going to be a pretty bad day. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. It's not really looking too great as you go into tomorrow. Because not only do you have an enhanced risk, a level 3 out of 5 of severe weather, you have a 5% risk of tornadoes, so scattered tornadoes are possible. You have a 45% risk, which is pretty much almost a 50-50 shot of damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour in your location. But also, you have a 5% risk of damaging hail, isolated damaging hail of up to an inch in diameter, and you have a 15% risk of flash flooding, so scattered flash flooding is possible for you tomorrow. It's not looking fun for you tomorrow. I'm just going to be completely honest and keep it real. It's not looking fun. And I definitely will be preparing for any tornado warning that you may get, any severe thunderstorm warning that you may get, and flash flooding. You know, what's that flooding plan going to be if you get that flash flood warning? Because it's going to be not too great. It's not going to be great at all. Now, past that, you may see some severe weather Tuesday and Wednesday of next week as well, so you're also going to have to watch out for that. And then excessive rainfall wise, you have a isolated risk of flash flooding on Tuesday of next week. And then for your forecast for the future, you'll be dry after tomorrow, but Sunday, Monday, you look good. Temperatures will also be dropping down to around 85, 87 as you move into Monday and Tuesday, but then past that, you're actually going to get into the lower 80s as you move later on into the week. Precipitation chances will also be there for you Tuesday night going over into Wednesday night. Then finally for Duncan, Oklahoma, you have low temperatures tonight at 71, high temperatures for tomorrow at 93, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 72. Chance of storms tonight, slight chance of storms tomorrow. No precipitation past that. It's going to be nice and dry past tomorrow. And then for your severe weather, excessive rainfall, looks like that you are in the clear there. And that's all I have to say here in terms of those 3 areas. We did get a correct answer inside the chat. My Aunt Lula did get it correct. It was Thursday. Thursday was the correct answer. I believe this is your 3rd day in a row getting the top fan question of the night for tonight, but it's also just because nobody else wants to try and type. So I guess you're really the only one who actually wants to, well, I'm not going to say that, but I'll say you're the only one that's actually dedicated to getting it. So I do congratulate you for that, and I do congratulate you for getting it for 3 days in a row. So I'm going to go and give you a round of applause for that. But that's all I have to say here. We just hit 770 subscribers as well, so we are now 30 away from 800. And that's all I have to say here really for tonight. Again, you're the top fan of the night. In terms of any honorable mention, I don't really see too much. Maybe my cousin Cheryl and then my Nana will be up there for honorable mention for tonight. And I don't see anything else. So I don't see anything inside my email. Remember, you can go in and send me a picture on my website, scweather360.com. Again, that is scweather360.com. You can go in and submit photos to me there. Also, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. We're at 770, trying to get to that main goal of 800. I will be back tomorrow morning for your Saturday morning forecast update. Also, tomorrow evening for your Saturday evening forecast update. I believe that is all. Remember, 8 p.m. next week will be the new time. Probably either on Monday or Tuesday, but I'll let you know a for sure date tomorrow evening. But that's all. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Hit those two buttons before you leave if you're new.